G'day everybody, my name is Elliot Waters and you're listening to the Dysregulated podcast. As always, thank you for tuning in. Okay, so this episode I'm going to have a look at something that occurred when I was at the James Fletcher psychiatric ward when I was there for a couple of weeks. It's not about me though, it's about one of the other patients. The turnaround that this bloke had after getting medication was something else. So I'll try and paint the scene. So this ward is in like a square shape with like a courtyard in the middle. So you go round and round and round like a donut, a square donut. So what people who are depressed often do, and I was doing this a few times when I first got there, we just walk with our thoughts, carrying that burden, carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders, that the storm cloud, and just walk and just focus on walking and just try and keep out those negative thoughts. Often when people do this, it can be very confronting, even though I've been in a psych ward and stuff before. When I was there last and I'd already experienced this sort of stuff, it was still very confronting to see people just walking, doing laps, eyes glazed over, just looking into the distance, but not really looking at anything and just on autopilot. It's a terrible thing to see. And it was the same when I was at Maitland Private. It wasn't a donut shape, but it was an up and down, big long hallway. People used to just do laps of that, up and down, up and down, up and down. And to me, from what I see, what I've perceived, sitting there being a student of psychology and all that sort of stuff, it seems to me that the ones who are doing the walking are the ones who are in really bad shape. And as I said, unfortunately, at times, that was me. I remember one particular day, I think I walked, it was like 6 hours straight or something, just over and over. I had music playing. It was probably sad emo stuff. I can't remember. But unfortunately, I've been in the position where I've had to do that myself. But anyway, so there's this patient. He's doing laps. He'd be about my age, if not a bit younger, so late sort of 20s. Sort of big guy, not fat or overweight or anything like that, like big, solid, sort of muscly dude. And he was just trudging along over and over. I can still hear his footsteps, just slow, scraping the ground, I hate that when people don't lift their feet, but at the same time, if you're really, really depressed and you're doing laps of a psychiatric ward, you can do what you want. So I can still hear him, and not just him either, a lot of the other patients as well, doing this walking and this noise. I'm laying in my room and I can hear people walking past my door and I can pick out who it is just by the sounds of their footsteps. That's how much the world becomes the psych ward when you're on it, that's for sure. So anyway, this particular guy, from what I understand, because, we don't go around telling each other what we got, but from what I understand, was suffering from schizophrenia. And when he was doing the walking, the laps, because I did talk to him after this a bit later, he was more than happy to talk about it. When he was walking the laps, he was trying to keep the voices at bay. And the voices were telling him to do things that he didn't want to do. But he also knew about the influence that they can have. So the idea was if you just kept walking, concentrating on walking, it'll block out those sorts of thoughts and the idea of dwelling on this negativity. Because, depression breeds depression. If you're laying in bed all day, that's never going to end well. And I'll put my hand up knowing that firsthand. But if you can get out there and do a bit of walking, get a bit of sunshine, that sort of stuff. It's the little things like that can be, I guess, like a foothold for something more. And that's also what he was trying to do. He's trying to just keep out of his room and just keep focused on a task because, mindfulness, that's good for, mental health as well in the short term. So being mindful and really trying hard to keep those voices at bay. But anyway, so this had been going on for a few days. He just trudging around and I'm always thinking, man, you poor bastard. What on earth are they, what's their plan? Well, anyway, their plan was, being schizophrenia, makes sense to prescribe an antipsychotic. In this case, it was olanzapine. Now, on this show, I get very negative about medications because the medications haven't done a great deal for me. They haven't moved the needle significantly enough, I think, for the cost and the side effects and the amount that I've been on over the years. But for some people, medication is life-saving. And I want to sort of present that idea as well because it is for some people. Just because it wasn't necessarily for me doesn't mean that it isn't for other people. I have never seen a turnaround like I did in the afternoon of this guy getting his first dose of olanzapine. Unbelievable. He was every morning we have a meeting. So all the patients get together, the nurses and the doctors that are on duty, and we just have a meeting about what's being planned for the day, what activities, what therapy and all this sort of stuff. It's just like a general sort of toolbox meeting. And he would always sit there in these meetings and sit there and be listening, but you could tell he was, a million miles away at the same time. They always try and get one of the patients, to read out like the agenda. And I did it once and I couldn't handle it. It was too stressful. I was way too nervous, thinking everyone was judging me. But all of a sudden, this bloke, he's like, yep, I'm doing it. Everyone's just like, what the hell's going on here? And then he did it, and he did it well. He was very well spoken. And I come up with him at the end and said, mate, what a turnaround. How good's this? And that's when we had a little bit of a chat about what was going on. But it was like it was a miracle. The afternoon of being administered that olanzapine in the morning, all of a sudden he said the voices stopped and he had a smile on his face. And I was like, I know, I can see it. It's lighting up the room. This is amazing. So there you go. So at first when I got there, I thought he might have been in, because he was a bigger guy, maybe for some sort of, conduct issue, and he wasn't talking to anyone because he didn't want to, and, hated us all that sort of stuff. This is the judgments that I make on people, and they're always so wrong. And in the end, he's the most lovely guy, and he was just so appreciative, that not only was he finally getting the right medication, but someone was actually checking in to see how he's going. Because every day when I'd do my little walks, I would always say hello to him, always. So, g'day, mate, how you going? I hope today's going a bit better. And, I'd usually get a grunt or something or whatever. And this day, again, when we were having a little brief chat, he thanked me for that, just the little check-ins. And he said, although it might not have seemed like it, those little things meant a lot, so thank you very much. And it was, no dramas, obviously. But yes, the turnaround was unbelievable. Like, he's washing his clothes, cleaning the bed and everything. These are jobs, menial tasks that people in psychiatric wards aren't particularly good at. But they always make you do it because it's very empowering, obviously, if you can. He was a bit like me, not very good with the whole washing everything on time, instead of waiting till everything was dirty and then doing a huge load, almost breaking the thing. Anyway, all of a sudden he's spring cleaning. It was brilliant. And it was motivating and inspiring for me too. As someone who's been on olanzapine I actually think is one of the medications that did a little bit for me. Not heaps, still not quite enough, but it definitely did something. And it's one of my favourites to be. I'm not on it anymore, but I'd almost prefer to swap it out for quetiapine. The only problem is this antipsychotic olanzapine can have some longer term issues, like diabetes, for example. Shrinkage of the brain over time, which I think is probably a trait of all antipsychotics, but olanzapine has definitely got research to suggest this. Weight gain, definite weight gain. Even I put on weight with olanzapine, which was good at the time, but you got to manage it, got to be careful. So, but hey, if they're the side effects, but you get to have a smile on your face every day, I don't know about you, but I'm taking the smile every day. And that's what I said to my doctor when I was put on clomipramine, which has a stack of side effects, which I'm still experiencing today. But I said to him, mate, if I have to vomit every morning, but I've got a smile on my face, I'll do it. I'll do it 10 times out of 10. And that was sort of the approach that me mate was taken with the olanzapine. He knew, olanzapine's a heavy medication, but hey, maybe he needed a heavy medication, because I'll tell you, the turnaround was unbelievable. Anyway, that's it from me. Just sort of a little positive one there on medications. It's only taken like 149 episodes to get there. So yeah, a little bit more insight into life on the psychiatric ward. I definitely am planning on doing more episodes like this one, offering some insights of what it is like. But yeah, as I said, one of the big things you notice every time there's people walking, doing laps, and it's so sad. And I tell you, when you're one of them, it is scary as well. Oh, anyway, but with the right treatment, some people just turn around unbelievable, and it's next level, and it's inspiring, and it is great to report on here. Okay, thank you everybody for listening. I do appreciate it. You can follow me on Instagram at elliot.t.waters. Until next time, be safe, be happy, and I'll see you next time here on the Dysregulated podcast.